Okay.
Okay,
Hmm?
thanks everyone for joining us. Really pleased that you're spending your time with us today. And again, we'll upload the recording to YouTube after the event. So yeah, really looking forward to getting started on this one. Very briefly, we follow that Microsoft event code of conduct. Short version is be nice. We all know this. But if you've got any issues, just speak with me or Head of Security, Sarah Jones, if there's any issues at all, but I'm sure there won't be. So yeah, just reach out if there's any problems or you know you've got any concerns. And tonight, I'm really thrilled actually because we've got such a great lineup of speakers and all completely different sessions, like Sarah just mentioned as well, before we hit record. So first up, we've got You Said What? Mastering Generative Orchestration in Copilot Studio by the wonderful Kay. We've seen Kay speak before and he's absolutely brilliant. Then we've got a new speaker. Really pleased to have Martin Lopez join us with Getting Started with Customer Insights, the good, the bad, and the useful. It's been great to meet Martin at Color Cloud recently as well. So really loving that he's stepping up and joining us tonight. It's yeah, really great to see you here, Martin. And then at the end, no stranger to the show, probably spoken the most times on the show, I think, actually, Franco Musso with Back from the Future, Franco's Guide to AI and the Future of Power Pages Development. So yeah, really interested to see about bring your own code and all the cool things coming out with Pages as well. So really excited by that one. Sarah, and anything from you? Anything you want to plug? Anything coming up?
Yeah, I just wanted to plug the Experts Live conference that's going to be based in London on the 11th. I think it's workshop to the 11th, conference day on the 12th of June. I've heard quite a lot of the exciting workshops. I know Melissa Hale's got one with legends like Franco. Who else has she got on it? Duncan Boyne. Nick, she's got a load of Sandra. There's all sorts of people coming and taking a shift in a Power Platform workshop, and the caliber of speakers is excellent for the conference day as well. I know Angie Patsiavu is going to be there, Ian Tweedy, Dan Barber. So check out Experts Live UK, and we'll see you there.
Fantastic. Yeah, it sounds like an amazing event. Some top speakers, like you say. I think last year was the first one for London, I think, and this one's a bigger full
Yeah.
day. Well, yeah, a couple of days rather. So yeah, it's going to be awesome. Awesome. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first speaker. So Kay, spoken before, absolutely natural speaker. I remember seeing Kay speak at one of these all-day user groups in the UK as well. Absolutely amazing session. I love the mobile app demo and things you did, Kay. It was really good.
Thank you.
But whenever you're ready, my friend, just feel free to share your screen. Best of luck,
Okay.
and looking forward to seeing what you've got for us.
Thank you so much, Keith. I'm really glad to be here today. I think we've spoken about this since last year, and eventually today has happened and we're here. So it's really good. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. Hope you've had great days wherever you're joining from. So today I'm going to talk to us about a topic. It's a bit dramatic. The topic is a bit dramatic. You said what? Mastery Generative Orchestration in Copilot Studio. And the reason why the topic is as dramatic as this is because of how excited I am about the whole idea of generative orchestration. Previously, when in the days of Power Virtual Agents, it was so different, so manual, and we'll get into different things. What has changed now, and how you can actually, own it, and how you can do more with generative orchestration. But first of all, introduction. My name is Kayode Ajayi. People call me K also. I'm a Microsoft MVP in the business applications category. And I live in Telford, United Kingdom, and I spend a lot of time, funny enough, I spend a lot of time on my computer. When I'm not on my computer, I'm with my family and we're just having a nice time. So the first bit I just want to talk about is the different Copilot experiences. So first, I talked about the fact that there was something called Power Virtual Agents. Now we don't have Power Virtual Agents. It's been rebranded into Copilot Studio. But beyond Copilot Studio, there are different ways you can interact with Copilot, especially depending on the kind of license you have. So we have the Copilot chat with Work IQ if you pay some more. We have Copilot in different products, Copilot in Word, Excel, and very recently now, we have the whole idea of agentic mode within your Copilot in Word, and I've been using that a lot. In Word, Excel, you could just tell it something and it does it for you rather than just telling you what to do. So that's really amazing. We have Copilot Studio Lite or declarative agents, which you can do in M365 Copilot. We have Copilot Studio full version, which is where I spend a lot of time on because that gives you a lot of tools to play with. And yeah, with my background and the kind of things I like to do, I spend a lot of time in Copilot Studio full version. If you're a bit more advanced and you're happy to play around with Azure and things like that, then you can try your hands on Microsoft Foundry. But I've not done so much with Microsoft Foundry at the minute. So Copilot Chat Work IQ, Copilot Studio Lite versus Copilot Studio. So, and I'm going to start with this. There's a difference between Copilot Studio Lite and the full version, which we're going to see on this screen that I have here. Now, Copilot Studio Lite, which is you get in like the agent builder experience, is more limited in what you can do than the Copilot Studio full version. So as I said, they're called declarative agents, the one in the agent builder. And that just gives you a way of having your instruction, your knowledge. It gives you some simple data sources you can use. And it now has features like code interpreter. So you can do some advanced stuff. But when you are doing your Copilot Studio full version, you get everything you get in Agent Builder with addition of some more tools. You can call actions, you can call external services, you can call MCPs, and you have more control over what the agent is doing. Now, the theme about this whole conversation I'm talking about today is about control, right? Because in the days where we used to prescribe everything, what everything the agents used to do. And I remember those days, it always felt funny to me because I would go and say, well, I'm building an AI agent. But the actual truth is, I'm the one that typed every single thing the agent is saying. So the agent doesn't come up with anything by itself. And I remember those days, I still did it because, yes, it was my job and it was still interesting because there was natural language processing there. So it still understood what you were saying, right? But everything it said was prescribed. Everything it did was prescribed. And as a developer, there are two mindsets. Yes, I have a lot of control over what the agent does, right? I had a lot of control over what the agent does, but it's that itself became a limitation because that means I had to think about everything the agent needed to do. I had to think about every question the user would need to ask. And those days when I'm delivering a session like this, what I'll just tell them is, well, you're going to see the output of the conversations with the agent, and you will see areas where the agent cannot answer the questions, and you have to go back and build that in. So the agent it's talking about improving the functionality of the agent. Well, you had to go back there and put more words in the mouth of the agent. So that's the whole idea of classic orchestration. Then we used things called topics and trigger phrases. So that's how the agent understood something that was called intent. And the whole idea of intent is what is the user trying to do? So all the agent was doing then is just like, what is the user trying to do? And it's matched that to a topic. But every single thing the agent said and did was based on what you had written, what you had done within the topic. And we'll still see some of that during the demo. So we used topics, we had different nodes, your message nodes, your condition nodes, we still have those today. In addition to that, you could use variables. We had topic variables, global variables, We had actions. Now they're called tools, but in those days it used to be called actions. And we had some system topics like fallback topic, escalation topic. So the agents we built then, and then we just call them chatbots, not agents, anyways. But the agents we built then, these were the tools we really had to play with. And remember, I said they're very prescriptive. You had to say everything. It was very manual. So now we are in the days of generative orchestration, and this is just so exciting to me, right? Because now the agents are able to you're able to, you can build an agent in 2 minutes, and that's just amazing, right? You can just point it to the knowledge source and just start asking the agents questions about the knowledge sources. Now, we still have topics. Remember, I said I showed us topics in the classic orchestration. We still have that, but now we can do more with topics. Now we can have things like instructions, descriptions, and we use that to actually drive how the agent talks, how the agent behaves, when the agent asks questions, when he doesn't ask any question, how you restrict it, everything. We have these tools to actually control what the agent does. But that in itself also creates a problem because now we have generative orchestration, but you lose some form of that control. And I'll say in many of the enterprise agents I've built, building the basic agent itself, it's very quick, right? You just take the data sources, you just take the tools, you just connect it, and that's the basic agent. But the question now comes into play in terms of how do you refine the behavior? How do you control what it does? And that is where this session is actually based on, right? Because this instructions, the descriptions, input and output variables, how we bring everything together is what determines what the agent does. And as much as generative orchestration relies a whole lot on the agent, in terms of the agent figuring out what to do, uh, we can also take some of that control back. And in some projects that I've done recently, I found myself still thinking with the whole hat, the whole Power Virtual Agent hat, and trying to like manually do everything. But you get more of this new era when you rely more on the agent to do things by itself, but you need the proper guardrails around that. So I'm just going to show us a demo now that goes through different scenarios, the classic orchestration, the generative orchestration. Now, when you take generative orchestration and power that up with MCP, and also when you do hybrid orchestration. So these are different valid ways of building agents. And I'll just kind of talk about when you may want to do one or the other, or the advantages you get when you do one or the other. So I'm going to go straight into the demo now. So for the demo here, I have a data source that I've used Dataverse for right now, and it's just called Enterprise Request. And the whole idea of this is, well, within an organization, this agent is available to users to create requests, any kind of request basically. So that's the scope of this demo. But I've built different types of agents, and we'll see what's different and what additional control we get when we do it the other way. So first of all, this is the classic orchestration. Remember, I said with classic orchestration, we are really dependent on our topics, and our topics is how we define what the agent does, how we define what the agent says. So how do you get classic orchestration today? If you go over to your settings here, you just need to make sure that this bit about orchestration that says use generative AI, you want to make sure that's turned off. So when it's turned off, it just uses your classic orchestration methods. You will still see that you have instructions available, knowledge, and all of those things. But because you've turned off generative orchestration, it's just going to go back to the old setting of relying a lot on your topics. So if you were to build an actual agent using this, you'll be having different topics to handle different scenarios. In this case, I have just check request status as a topic. Now, what does this topic do? Remember I talked about nodes. So these are different nodes within my Copilot Studio agent. And you can add a new node by clicking add node, and you see different options of nodes available to you. So over here, what does the agent do? Now, this is the trigger phrase I talked about. When we get into generative orchestration, you will see the naming of these changes because it gives you more. So here, trigger phrases, all it's just trying to do is reading what the user has typed and is saying, does the query the user type, does it match any of this phrase? So it's not an exact match. So this is where I still say that it does some natural language processing. So it does this. Here it said, please provide a request title. Then it's going to check my data source. If it finds the request, if it doesn't find it, it will say request not found. If it finds it, it's going to just give me like an output that shows what the request status is. So that's just it, very basic. Now let me run this through. So I'm just going to come here and say get status of a request. And let's see what comes back. So it says, please provide a request title. Why has it said that? Well, it's only said that because I've typed it in here. And if I run this 100 times, 1,000,000 times, it's always going to say this because that's what I've typed in here. So now let me give it a request type of marketing. Then it goes to the next step and it just says, here's your request title, marketing, and it formatted this way. So this in itself is useful. And as I said, this is how we've done it for many, many years. But now in the world of generative orchestration, we can go beyond just simple queries. We can now start leveraging some of the capabilities of the AI. Now, how do you have generative orchestration? Still the same setting. You come over here and you make sure generative orchestration is set to yes. Now, when you do that, there are some other settings you want to check out for. Things like your content moderation. How strict do you want it to be? You need to check things like, do you want to allow ungrounded responses? Do you want to use information for the web? So all of these other settings become relevant because now you're relying on the LLM to do a lot of things. In addition to that, you also have your instructions. Now over here, I've written instruction here. And one thing with your instruction is don't superly try to make it excessively long, right? I think your goal should be try to write the least amount of words in your instructions that gives you the kind of output you want. So it's absolutely fine for you to start with a very simple use case or a very simple instruction, then you build it out as as you test and iterate. And it's good that you can just start testing immediately, because when you have so many instructions, you're just giving the agent more rooms to be wrong, right? So but just try to write the least amount of information that is possible. I think there's an 8,000 character limit here, so that's something to watch. I've built agents where I get to 8,000 and I'm like, oh, now I have to refine this and just trim down some things, right? So I'll just say aim to write the least amount of instructions that will get you the results you want anyway. So I have the instructions. In addition to that, I've added this enterprise request as a knowledge source, and that's how he's able to answer those questions. You can add tools. I've not done that in this case, just to keep it simple. And now let me just cut. So over here in the topics, you will see, well, I have this one, but I'm not necessarily using it, this risk assessment. I was going to say I don't have any topic, custom topic here, but apparently I actually do. But that was probably just me testing something. So now I can ask a kind of query that I couldn't ask before. Now I can say, why are enterprise requests, or which enterprise requests look high and risky and why? Now that requires some level of intelligence to answer such a question, right? And it's been able to do that now. That's leveraging the AI capabilities. So if we go into the instruction a little bit, let's see. When the user asks about a project, it's telling it what its goal is. And talking about instruction, there's a whole idea of GCSE, your goal, your context, your source, and the expectation. So just when you write your prompts or your instructions, just make sure that those components are within your instructions. It doesn't have to follow sequentially, but putting those in actually help you decide how the response looks like. So I've said use the enterprise request as your only data source. In your response, identify the risky request, explain exactly why they're considered risky and things like that. Over here, I noticed it actually used some of the topics that were there. And if you look at what I've done in the topic here, now this is a pattern that I found useful in some cases, right? Especially when you're building an agent that has many, many different things that it's doing. I have the instruction. The instruction here talks about how it should do a risk assessment. But over here in the topic, I've just kind of driven it again, leveraging this bit here, this trigger bit that says the agent chooses. So, and I've given an instruction here. This tool handles queries like risk assessment, start a risk assessment, assessment risk evaluation, blah blah blah. So still leveraging that topic because when it does a scanning, I'm sure more advanced people can tell you more about this. But when you send a response and it's trying to reply you, it does a scanning and there's like a priority list in terms of what it scans first before. So it goes through topics even before it goes through like variables and things like that. So there's a priority list. So topic is very high on that list. So sometimes, especially when your agent is doing many different things, you can just kind of use your topic to capture that intent because it's that high on the priority list. And now that we are in the topic, all I've just said here is start a risk assessment. So over here, I've used what's called generative answers. I love it. I use it a lot. So over here, I've said start a risk assessment. But the question is, how does it start a risk assessment? This instruction already contains what it should do. So in this case, this is overkill. This is like I'm hitting a fly with a hammer or I'm shooting a fly with a gun. But in more complex agents, you will find this pattern quite useful, especially when you're finding it difficult, when the agent is not really hitting that topic that you are trying to trigger with your prompts. So just thought I'll put that in there. So this is generative orchestration. Fine, amazing. We are already getting response. Now we are using the AI capabilities. And the good thing is I didn't type all of these things, right? Unlike in classic orchestration, the only thing it will say is what I've actually typed in. But now it's almost like I have somebody within the system talking to me and following my instructions, which is really, really, really good. So taking it a step further, now talking about control, remember I said control is kind of like the theme of the conversation. So well, yes, we're leveraging the AI, but how about when we still want some form of control? We still want some things to follow a certain pattern, especially when you're talking of high compliance scenarios. Yeah, you see all of this because I was doing some testing before the session. So especially when you're doing high compliance scenarios, there are times that you want it to follow some exact predefined path. That's where this hybrid orchestration comes in. So in this case, I have my instructions, all the generative orchestration things. But in addition to that, I have something here that I have just called enterprise request compulsory message. So the scenario I'm painting here is before the agent sends a response, it must trigger into this topic and it must send a message. So here is just sending a message, but in your case, it could be asking for confirmation. Do you agree for me to do this? So, but this is just a simple scenario I've come up with here. So in this case, if I just put a query here, create a request and all of that, and I just click on send. Okay, so I think I jumped it a little bit. There's the one with the MCP server. Ideally, I wanted to show that before this one, but we'll still get into that. So here is use the MCP server. But over here in the activity, you will see that it has triggered into this enterprise request compulsory message, even though there's nothing in the prompt that said, do this, right? So in cases where you want something that should always happen, and because we've gone into a topic, remember within a topic, you can actually define everything that happens step by step. So you're able to get the LLM, doing its own thing, and you're still able to do your own thing and bring it together. So how did we design this? If I go over into overview and I'm just going to quickly scroll. So a lot of the instructions are the same with what we saw before. But over here, I just have some extra instruction here that says when the user creates or submits a new request, if sufficient information is available, say the compulsory message using, then I've tagged that topic, then call the enterprise request tool to create a record, right? So I've specified it here, and because of this instruction, now the other bit of this is, we said when the agent chooses. Over here in the description, I've said this tool can handle queries like this: enterprise request required message, show compulsory message for enterprise request. What is the compulsory message? So things around compulsory message, basically. Even though the user has not typed it here, but because I have it in my instruction here that says, say the compulsory message using this, it now goes ahead and just, sometimes even if I don't particularly tag it here, if I just say and say the compulsory message, at that point the agent will think, how do I say the compulsory message? It's going to look at the different tools it has available. It's going to look at the topic, and because of this description I've done here, it will trigger into that topic. So these are the different things that still allows us to be able to get that control back. I was going to show the one with the MCP server. So let me just go back in here and come over here, Generative Orchestration plus MCP. And the whole idea of this is, yes, we have generative orchestration, but MCPs are just amazing because in terms of your developer experience, it just brings it down so, so much more. Now, if I wanted to work with Dataverse as a tool, so there's Dataverse as a knowledge, which is fine, but we found that in some cases, in addition to adding the data source as a knowledge, you would also want to add some actions you want to perform to the data source as tools. And that helps your scalability a lot more. So say you're, maybe not Dataverse, let's talk about SharePoint. Say you have SharePoint here and you have a million records that you want to use. Now, if you just add SharePoint as your knowledge, there might be some things you want to do or some queries you ask that it won't just get that data because it's at that point it's leveraging search. But tools are more predictable in the sense that you're using a connector, you're connecting to the service. You have more predictability with tools. So in some cases, especially when you're doing enterprise stuff, in addition to adding it as a knowledge, you're adding it as a tool also. But that now creates a problem because that means you have to add different tools. But let's see what the Dataverse MCP server gives us. It gives us different endpoints, right? List tables, describe tables, read queries, and the likes. And you get all of this without doing any extra work. And you can just decide to turn some on and turn some off. So ideally, only choose the ones you want to use, because if you give your agent more, it's going to think it has more and it might just decide to use it one day. So only turn on the ones you want here. But that's just amazing because I didn't have to do any extra configuration to get this. And if I just put a request here, create a data request, and I just do that, if you look at the activity, it's going to start. Now it's called the Dataverse MCP server. The thing about MCP servers is they know the tools, they know what a valid request look like for the tool, and they're able to kind of like pass it down. So it looks at it, it says, oh, I'm going to create a record. I'm going to describe the table. Now, this describe table is really amazing. It's done this because it didn't understand something about the table and it's going to try and find, maybe there's a column name that is wrong and it's just trying to find it, and it's doing all of that by itself. So that's just like the advantage that we have, when you give your agent, the right tools available, even if your instruction is not complete, sometimes it's going to go and try and figure it out by itself just to get to that response. So that like, I don't want to extend this session too much. Every time I've delivered this session, I've always been like, oh, I don't have enough time. I've always been like, oh, maybe I do this into a series or something, because there's just so much. But I just hope, like, within this time, I've been able to, like, show you the different areas, right? The different ways you could build your agent, some different decisions you may want to make in terms of the kind of responses you want to get, right? Based on, whether you're doing generative, whether you're doing classic, or whether you're doing like a hybrid approach, or whether you're bringing MCP servers into the play. But MCP servers is just a tool, right? Rather than MCP servers, you could put the actual tools, or you could even do custom connector, and you could build your own MCP server, so you don't always have to leverage the ones existing. The ones existing just means you don't have to manage it. But if you are creating your own MCP server, that's something extra for you to manage yourself. So I'm just going to jump back into the slide. I'm conscious that we still have some other sessions. So the whole idea now is you can have the best of both worlds, right? So you can use your classic, and when I say classic, I just mean that point where you want things to go a certain way, right? You want it to go through like node by node. You want to define what happens. You can still do that, where compliance matters. I gave an example of it's giving it's asking the user, do you agree? And you want that to happen before something else happens. So you can do that. A transaction needs to happen. You want it to be precise. You're going to be using that design pattern basically. And you use generative where you want that interpretation, when you want to leverage the LLM's capabilities, when you want flexibility, because it's so much flexible. Remember, I said the other time I was building an agent, but I was trying to do everything step by step, and I just looked at it. I'm like, why am I doing all of this? And just redesigned the whole thing, relied on the agent, and it was just happy days from there. So you said what? It's not really a question of can the AI answer it. It's just a question of can you orchestrate it responsibly? Can you put the right guardrails? So over there, I was showing you the instructions, the descriptions. Are you going to put the right instructions, the right descriptions? Are you going to bring in the right tools when you need them? Because all of those things are what comes together to give you that agent that you are trying to build, and that's what gives you the control. So even though we're leveraging the LLM, you still have control over what the agent says and what the agent does. So that's really my session today. I'm just shouting out my podcast. We have a Power Platform Deep Dive podcast, so I'm just shouting that out here. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, that's my LinkedIn profile, or you can also scan the QR codes there. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kay. That was absolutely brilliant. And I could highly recommend the Power Platform Deep Dive podcast. So do subscribe, everyone. It's awesome.
Thank you.
So yeah, really, really great job. A great presentation. And I think, as you say, Kay, if you've got more to share, sounds like you need to come back at some point for another session, right? You're always welcome back. It was another brilliant session.
Happy to. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. If anyone's got any questions for Kay, just feel free to raise your hands in Teams and we'll get around the room. Great stuff. Lots of love in the chat, Kay, and reactions as well. The podcast there, question in the chat, the Power Platform.
I'll put in the chat, Power Platform Deep Dive.
Nice one. Fantastic. Great stuff. Well, no questions so far, so I think you're all done, Kay. Thank you again, my friend. That was absolutely brilliant.
Thank you. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, Kay.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, always great to have Kay back, returning speakers and friends of the show to come back. So yeah, thanks so much. Well, next up, and I'm really thrilled to welcome Martin Lopez as a new speaker. So show a lot of love for Martin, please. So really brave thing. We've got other new speakers from previous shows, previous events, like Sarah Guest on here as well. It's a really big step up to go ahead and do something like that. So yeah, well done, Martin. All the best, and share the screen and take over when you're ready, my friend.
Okay. Thank you. Really cool session. I really enjoyed the hybrid approach. Really. So thanks everyone for your time. I'm Martin, and I'm going to talk about customer insights journeys. And the title of the session is The Good, the Bad, and the Useful. I'm doing a bit of an overview of the marketing automation tool of Dynamics, and I will share with you the good, the bad, and the useful that I used, that I learned over my implementation times of these projects. About me a little, I'm Martin Lopez. I'm an independent Dynamics 365 and Power Platform specialist, and I'm currently based in Switzerland. And even though I don't have a Swiss accent, I'm Spanish. I'm born in Spain. It's been 8 years since I've discovered the Dynamics 365 and Power Platform, and since then I've been always very involved with projects, and since 3 or 4 years more involved with customer insights journeys projects. And I have to say that I'm in love with the tool. I really like talking about it and writing about it. There's my LinkedIn. If you want to connect, it's always nice to meet new people. But first, what we'll cover, I think I'll want to share what is customer insights journeys for the people who don't know what the tool is or what it does it do, and the core capabilities, and then go a bit over the good and the bad and the useful that I learned. But first, there was a change. I mean, customer insights journeys has not always been called customer insights journeys. There was a time not so long ago where Dynamics 365 marketing was the name, and actually it got deprecated last year. That was when the change really happened. But it was not only your normal renaming of Microsoft. It was more of an architecture shift from this batch scheduled marketing automation tool to more into the real-time and event-based journeys that you can direct your customers in. And always when I talk about customer insights journeys, I like to differentiate the different parts. I think there's 4 pillars in journeys. One is the events. You can plan, register, and run events directly from the tool. You have your journeys, which can be differentiated between segment-based journeys and trigger-based journeys. These are just journeys that will share communication for clients. And then there's another pillar that I like to talk about, that it's about engagement and all the customizations that you can do with the tool. But my favorite one is definitely the event management. Here you can do cool things like this one. You can directly make a registration form in a web page and handle your registrations all within Dynamics with no other integration systems. It's all actually this is an example of a Power Page that it's holding this event registration form. And that's the cool thing about the tool, that it is inside the Power Platform and it has direct integrations with Dynamics 365 and all the Power Platform. In this event part, you can handle everything since, I mean, not only registrations, but sessions, speakers, even a waiting list in case that you get people registering in your event and the event goes over capacity. And also even a check-in mobile app where you can just scan a QR code of the registration directly on the venue and then have a timestamp of who registered when and who didn't arrive to the event. But one of the coolest things that many clients use is the native Microsoft Teams integrations for webinars. So you have directly all within the Dynamics, the event registration and the Microsoft Teams integration. So it is linked also to your Outlook. Regarding the journeys, I like to differentiate both of them between the old kind of journeys, which were segment-based. And I mean, with this, you define a segment of contacts and leads, and then you send a communication through a journey to this segment. These are very good for newsletters, when you want to deliver your newsletter, or when you organize a marketing campaign and you want to share it with a certain segment. But it is what the tool was doing when it was called Dynamics 365 Marketing. The new feature and the shiny feature is the trigger-based, where you take an event that happens in real time, like an event registration, and you just can send a communication to the client saying, "Hey, this is a confirmation that you got registered in our event. We wait for you." This is more for transactional things and for behavior-driven flows. And this is more or less what a good journey looks like. This is a very simple journey where you have a lead that it gets created. It's a trigger-based journey. So how it is connected to Dataverse. So when a lead gets created in Dataverse, it will go through here and it will trigger the journey, where in this example, we have an A/B test. So we will check if an email that is more formal works better than an email that is less formal. And we will analyze this data, because when we publish, we will see the analytics of who opened the email or clicked the email once it got sent. You have all these data inside Dynamics, and you can consult it. And then you can decide if you want to go for one email after this kind of test, as an example. I think it's a very powerful tool. And I want to show a bit more about the engagement. The engagement part, it's basically I want to define the emails and the forms that you can create, that you can embed in your own web pages, and a bit about the branding of your company. I will expand a bit the email part. This is how an email looks like, and it is well, not your usual Dataverse form. It is more drag and drop. You have your elements here. You can drag and drop an image or a button or even custom code. So you have access also to the HTML of the email. It is fully customizable, but it is mostly thought for marketing teams, so they can easily design their emails in a quick way. And this applies a bit, this philosophy, with the forms. You define the forms and you can insert or remove as many fields as you want. Also handle the kind of GDPR consents that you have normally in your forms. And you can embed these kind of forms everywhere that you have an entry point, either like a web page of your own company or even a Power Pages, and edit it with your branding, which Customer Insights let us define different kind of branding profiles in case that companies have different kind of brands, and you can define different kind of colors for your branding, different kind of typographies, and this will apply directly to the email and forms. So when you are choosing a brand over another, it will directly get all your configurations of colors and branding inside the tool. And now I will go a bit with the good. what I learned that this is the best of the tool. I think the real time feature, when it came, it was great. But the coolest thing is that they are expandable. You have out of the box triggers, like I said, when an event registration is created, or even when it's waitlisted. But you can create your own expansions with other tools because it is an API at the end of the day. And that means that you can, for instance, have a web shop where someone is putting stuff in your cart, and suddenly it leaves the page, and you can get a real-time trigger here where you can just send an email to that person and say, hey, do you have this in the cart? Do you want to pick up where you left off? So I think it is a very cool thing that you can implement. Also, that it is native to Dataverse it's great. I mean, if you already have Dynamics 365 sales or you are handling leads already and contacts, you don't need any integration, and you can take advantage of plugins of Power Automate to expand your use cases. But as I said earlier, the Microsoft Teams events out of the box, it's something that the clients really look for because there are not so many marketing tools that provide this without third-party stack. And of course, the reusable building blocks, I mean, everything that I've shown, it's meant to be reused. Every brand profile is easily done so that you can choose depending on the email. You can have templates of journeys or emails or forms. And you have even content blocks where you can just, you already developed for an email, you can reuse in different emails. But there's also bad. And it's because not everything is happening like in the demo at the end of the day. You have sometimes the drag and drop designer that sometimes is not working as designed, and it can cause some problems, some logic that it's fuzzy, and that sometimes you need the help, and it is recommended the help of someone who knows HTML and JavaScript to handle these kind of behaviors. Another point is the concept and GDPR. I mean, it's a big thing in marketing that out of the box content, it's very encapsulated, and it's not it is not one size fits all. So you have to plan for this since day one before you commit the error of sending emails to people who are not supposed to to receive emails. Then the migration from old marketing, this is, I would say, a solved issue. But last year, there was a lot of clients that had to rebuild everything, mails, journeys, segments, because the whole logic was new. And it can be a pain if you are involved in a customer that already had the old marketing. And for me, as I'm based in Switzerland, I struggled with this more than once. That it's not super multi-language friendly, and in Switzerland there are 4 official languages. So some customers have the problem that for an invitation of an event, they have to design 3 emails from scratch, and then for the confirmation, 3 emails in French and German and Italian. So it can be difficult and and it gets very complex very fast. But there's some useful tips that I can give when implementing these kind of things. I think that the use of the custom trigger catalog is pretty good. You have a lot of options already out of the box, and you can always filter with journeys. This is a very good tool to use. And another one is, because it was a bad thing, to define a consent matrix, to sit with the client in the project and define what consent looks like for him, and define clearly what channel, which purpose, and which topic should be sent or restricted. This should be done early, early on the project. Another thing is to treat content blocks like code, because I've been in situations where you find yourself seeing 5 footers for an email, and and you don't know anymore which one was the right one. So my suggestion here is to version them, to have some kind of naming structure, so you can have it documented and at least know which one to choose. And another one for the road is, when in doubt, use a trigger-based journey. I mean, I had similar like use cases where I could implement both the segment-based or trigger. And in my experience, the trigger-based journey normally does the job way better. As simple as a birthday mailing journey can be very well done with a trigger-based journey, better than a segment-based. And I would like to leave with some takeaways for you. I think the tool is very powerful, but it's opinionated. I think as we are already in the Power Platform world and dynamics, it's very easy to say, okay, this is great. This is a great tool, but it's clear that there's a bias with this. There's also the thing that you should plan before implementing. I think the content management, the branding, and if it's your case, the multilingual features should be defined when you get involved in these kind of projects, and they obviously live out of the box. And if possible, you should reuse instead of reinvent. I mean, you have the Microsoft leave us with such a great tool of all the freedom in the world to reuse triggers, content blocks, do templates of emails and journeys, and it's the way that it should be evolved, the tool. And that would be it. It was a short session. I don't know if I'm over time or something. But thank you very much for listening. And I want to ask if someone has some questions.
Nice one. Thank you. Well, first off, Martin, no questions, just a comment. See, that was excellent. You're pretty much perfect on time, so no worries there at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good. Perfect.
Excellent. Rayhan, I hope I pronounced that correct. Please go ahead. Oh, so I know you've come off mute, but I can't hear you there, Rayhan. Sorry. If there's any issues, feel free to put in the chat and we can work on the tech issues. Sorry about that. Great stuff. Okay, so there's a good question there in the chat from Franco. So Martin, Franco's saying, if we want to hire a customer insights journeys freelancer or contractor or trainer, are you the man to see, and are you available?
Yeah, actually, I recently started working independently, and I am available from August on. I have availability.
Fantastic. And where best can people reach you?
Yeah, in my webpage, I have an email and all the services that I provide. Also, in my LinkedIn, you can go directly to my webpage. So, yeah.
Perfect. Great stuff. Yeah, that's fantastic. There's a bit more typing in the chat, so we'll just see if there's any other questions. But yeah, Martin, again, that was absolutely brilliant. So again, you don't come across like a new speaker. That was absolutely brilliant. Well done.
Thank you.
So yep, Rayhan put in the chat there, once an application is live, can the admins or the admin users change the branding?
Yes. Actually, the tool is meant for the users to be used, not only Power Platform developers. Normally, the branding or the emails they have security roles that are defined, so you can very easily give permission for this to be done.
Awesome, great, really good to know. Yeah, no, that's superb. Thanks. Lovely. Well, thank you very much, Martin. There's no other hands up, no other questions. So yeah, thank you once again. Really appreciate you choosing to be a new speaker with us. It does mean a lot to me and Sarah.
Thank you.
Great stuff. So Sarah, I'm not sure if I've got the full details of the next speaker. Would you mind introducing the next speaker for us, please?
Yeah, well, I didn't want to speak over, but yeah, Martin, that was brilliant. And thank you for coming here, and hope to see you speak in more events. Franco will be calling you out if you're not advertising your services whilst doing so. But yeah, Franco's here, back from the future. So this is the sort of AI in Power Pages development. I'll let Franco introduce it in more detail, but I can confirm him and Claude have got very close lately, and he's been doing some amazing things with Power Pages. So I'll hand it over to you, Franco.
Cheers, Sarah. Great job from the early presenters. Really enjoyed those. They're both areas that are pretty new to me. I know they exist and they're kind of on my list for catching up on. So it's great to get those introductions. Right, so can we get a show of hands who's used Claude at all? Okay, so it's new to a lot of us. And for any UI based stuff, have you used Power Platform skills? Okay, a couple of you. Nice. Well, I will warn you, like Sarah said, you can do what I did, go down a real rabbit hole on this stuff. So when you start getting into skills and writing your own plugins for things like Claude. But what I'm going to show you today is what Microsoft's released. It's available for both GitHub Copilot and for Claude. I much prefer the Claude version. I'm going to show you a finished result first of all. So this, you probably used to, if you come across Power Pages at all in the past, that people tend to suck at making Power Pages that look good, and that definitely includes Microsoft. So I've really felt that's an area that Microsoft should invest in, some templates that actually look good. So what I've got on screen, I think it's fair to say, would probably take me about 2 weeks to do. So it's an insurance portal, imaginatively named High Five. I've got some content managed areas. I've got footer. It's all nice and responsive. I've got an off-canvas menu that works at all different sizes. I've got a dashboard that recognizes who I am, what my insurance policies are. If I've got any claims open, I can raise a claim either just through a general button, or I can come in and do it directly from a particular claim. I can, for example, if I've got an action open, like I need to provide my doctor's note for this travel insurance claim, I can just do that directly within the context of wherever I am. Or like I said, I can just go ahead and create a new claim. It's all super fast. So you might notice going from one page to the next is just ridiculous. It's like lightning fast, especially for these multi-page forms compared to what it's currently like in Power Pages. I've got the information that I need at a glance. So if I was to say, view my policy details, I don't have to nip away to another screen. It's just here directly available to me. I've got the kind of validation you would expect. So I can't create a claim for a date in the future. I can't create a claim that isn't for my policy. It's all locked down security wise. Again, super quick from one step to the next. Now, here's where an example of where I'd usually spend a lot of the time in Portal. So here I've got an insurance claim, but each file that I drag onto this, I want to save on a separate child record, a piece of claim evidence with a file or an image attached to it. So that would usually take quite a few clicks. What I'm going to do is just drag and drop some images directly on that control. I can preview them, I can page through them like a gallery. So again, this would take me, so realistically, a couple of weeks to create this functionality. Now I've just got it. This is a couple of hours of work, and it doesn't take any design skills whatsoever. It just takes some prompts. I've got a nice submit step at the end. Again, this is exactly how I would typically do it with a custom build. And when I submit the claim, that hits Dataverse, creates all the child records, attaches the images, in one fell swoop, just nice and easy, and much more like a consumer facing app than your typical Power Pages site. So I mentioned already the Power Platform skills, so I'll show you where they live, but this is essentially how I'm going to leverage them, which we'll see for the remainder of the time tonight. We'll just see how far we can get. But this is a Claude plugin that ties together all those skills. So everything from creating your site, deploying your site, building the data model, taking some design inspiration and requirements from you, and it does the whole build. It's nice and interactive. If you wanted to do your homework and find out what's in those Power Platform skills, everything's completely transparent to us. So what surprised me about the skills, I thought they'd be in Python or C# or something like that. But it's as simple as for whichever kind of app you want to build. Let's see what's available for Canvas apps as an example. You can just go in, take a look at the skills. And it's all just in plain English. So you can learn a lot from these on how to build your own skills, or you can just get stuck in and use Microsoft's. So I'm going to start with a new site. So it is command line. It might look a bit scary for the non-techie people in the room, but let's give it a go. Just getting something off my other screen just a sec. Right, so I'm just going to say which folder I want to work in, and then back to Claude. And I've done some setup. You have to do it as a one-off. It might take half an hour to get Claude, get the Azure CLI and Power Apps CLI in place. I'm not going to bore you with that. So I'm just going to say that I want to create a site. So where I'm getting these commands from, how I know that create site exists, is on this page, which I'll drop in the chat, is a list of all the commands that are available. So you can run them in that order. You don't necessarily have to, but that's a logical order of what you would do for creating a new site from scratch. You can pick up existing code sites. So these are specifically for the single page applications that Power Pages can now create. But I could, for example, have got this far on my own and then decide that I want the plugin to take me through the rest of the way. But what I love about it is it feels like it's been designed to get you unstuck. So the things that are a pain, like if you got the objection that I'm not a designer, or if you prefer to design with some sample data in place, with some images in place, you want a static version you want to be able to click around in no time before you get your hands dirty integrating. This will just work the way you want to work. So I'm going to be asked some questions as we go along. So what do I want the site to be called? So I clicked on the wrong thing there. I'm going to use React. What type of site do we want to create? Usually for me, that would be a company portal, but you'll see you can choose from other options. Or you could say, in fact, I want a mix of all the above. That'd be fine as well. So there I would just come down to type something. For speed's sake tonight, I'm just going to go for a company portal. External facing makes sense. I'm going to submit those answers. So I'm just using keys on my keyboard there, up, down, enter. And you'll see, like I said, it's a very guided process. So I don't have to try and one-shot this and give it a mega prompt to get everything right the first time. Something else that surprised me, it might be obvious to a lot of you, that surprised me about these tools, though, is that as well as not being non-deterministic, what seems to happen a lot is you can prompt outside the line. So you can use the commands that are there within the plugin, or you can type other things to do with Dataverse, and it'll just work out what you mean. And if it tries something, fails, it's self-healing, it will adapt, it'll build a tool, and just carry on. So it can do all kinds of things, like even convert image formats, which is definitely coloring outside the lines. You've got the full power of Claude, not just what the Power Platform skills will let you do. So the name, let's say this is Franco Finance. Use the current folder. So some of those steps, that'll take a moment behind the scenes. So we've got create, deploy, activate. It's not all taking place in Dataverse, which again, like I said, I think it's a big benefit that I can do a lot of this locally. I can see my site, I can click through, I can do just about everything to do with my site without it ever hitting Dataverse, without me having to publish a solution, without having to keep going back and doing sync, preview, and all that good stuff. It will take care of building the data model for me, the security model for me, following best practices, deploys my solution. I can tell it which publisher to use. It's really, really close to what I would be spending weeks on a professional project. So that's just brewing away in the background. Again, example of what I did. So I'm going to be asked for some design input. Again, you can prompt it, but you can also provide images. You can provide reference sites. So what I did for this particular site is I had a screenshot of a color scheme from X that I liked, uploaded that, and it worked out that, well, this is probably the right color to use for accents, like this orange, where to bring in low lights, mid sections, elevations, where to use the neutral tones, all just nicely taken care of. Now, just a bit of filler. So while we wait on that, that in the background, something you might not have seen if you're not working in web development is there's also a Claude extension for Chromium browsers, including Edge. So what I find really helpful there is I can say, if I've got any JavaScript to debug, if I've got any CSS to debug, if I want it to help me improve on the styling, I can just type right here in the chat and it understands the context of what I'm working on. So if I'm debugging some JavaScript, for example, it will actually click through, see the JavaScript, try some different things out. Likewise with the CSS. A prompt I like to use quite often is if I'm inheriting a site that maybe I've only got designs for desktop, or if there was only ever implemented for desktop, maybe it predates responsive, or just they didn't do a good job on the responsive, is I can say, for example, I'm using Bootstrap 5.2. That's the version that ships these days with Power Pages. And I want to ensure this page adapts well for all the various breakpoints. Test and progressively improve. So that's not specific to Power Pages. You could use that for any website you've got. Could be a static site on Ajayi, could just be HTML, whatever you want. And then that, as I say, it'll just iterate on that page that it's got open. It'll ask for your permission, but this plan sounds pretty good. So it's going to look at all the other breakpoints that come as part of Bootstrap. It's going to iterate through taking some screenshots on my behalf and work out if there's any problems, retest, and then give me some suggestions. So that'll be a bit of a narrative, saying markup or some, markdown or something like that, and it would give me some specific CSS. But you'll see it's taking, in fact, just as it was about to do the magic part, the Claude things kick back in now. So I'll share that prompt in the background. It's in the chat. It's well worth you having a try with. I've got some really good results with that. So in fact, a tangent, apologies, but here's another site that that I've created that I only took the time to do. Just console Claude on that one. I only took the time to do a responsive layout, a desktop layout on this one, and I told it to take care of the different breakpoints for me, work out the style sheet so everything sizes down nicely, even on very complex pages, as things like the menu, that I get a responsive off-canvas menu that works at any size as well, rather than just trying to squeeze everything into that horizontal menu at the top. Right, so what do I want to include on the finance site? Maybe, yes, I want to get a calculator, and I want to apply for mortgages as well. So this is mimicking what I did on the insurance side, but I'm saying I want to use a multi-step form with a responsive progress bar and an intuitive drag and drop upload control for due diligence documents. And perhaps I also want to say that, in fact, Claude's still working for me in the background there. I thought I'd stopped. Drag and drop control for due diligence documents, and perhaps required 5 years of address history. Employment references. And then I get some design inputs. So again, I can choose one of its options. So minimal, either 1, 2, 3, 4, or I can say a mixture of those. So perhaps when I'm typing something, I can say I want, like, say, a mix of 1 and 4. Or I could say, here's a color scheme that I've got that I'd like you to use. So this is the one that I used on the High Five insurance site. I could say, want to use that, or perhaps another one that I've got locally, maybe this one. And then almost done. What kind of mood do I want to achieve? I'm going to go elegant and premium, but again, I could say a mix of those or type something completely different. Stop Claude, that's still working away on that prompt I gave it before. Definitely recommend you do that on your on any legacy sites that you've got. Give some really good recommendations and implementable code as well. As while we wait on that plugin in the background, I said that this whole thing took us about 2 hours. So the starting point was exactly the same as what you'd seen there. in a little while, what we'll get is a preview of the site that we can click through and start to give it some feedback to iterate on. Yeah, the responsive behavior of that is all pretty good. Something that I found is that it doesn't seem to like to include images. So part of the feedback that I gave it is to use Unsplash, which is a royalty-free photo website, and to use image URLs from there for any images. Otherwise, you'd find it just seems a bit sterile. There's no photography through the site, just kind of icons and SVGs. But the steps that I've taken for this beyond what we'll have time to see tonight is so I've gone through the steps where I've got the local site, I've populated it with sample data. So often templates, and you kind of get that intimidation from the blank screen. Here I've not had to write a single line of code or a single line of content. So here's the implementation plan that it's just created for us. So we can see what the design is going to look like, what kind of fonts is it going to use, what color scheme. I'm not keen on those fonts. I'm going to say I want to make a few changes. So it's working out what kind of question should it ask me for the changes that I want to make. So I could change everything, just the color palette. I'm interested in the typography. So it's suggesting some fonts for me. I'm going to tell it a specific font that I want to use. So I like Sign from Google Fonts. Show you that one quickly. It's the same one actually as on the insurance site. It's my favorite one at the moment. Interesting that I have to do everything in the command line these days, seeing that I clearly can't type. So I like that font. I think it's got a bit of character. That weight is probably a bit too strong. So I'm going to say use that Sign from Google Fonts. I don't want any uppercase headings and no weight above 800. So imagine I uploaded that image to use as a color scheme. If I was doing this for a client that's got an existing brand and existing site, obviously what I would do there is either provide their color scheme or some screenshots of their existing marketing materials and take it from there rather than me guess. Again, going a bit back and forth. So what I did further on this is, I think starting point had something like the homepage, the coverage page. Did a bit of back and forth about the color scheme, so it was a bit too much of this beigey color to start with. So I said I want to use a gradient of the blues that were in that color scheme screenshot for the headings. I have the support page about, so again, not how to create any of this, not even the placeholder text. So this is the next thing that it created for me on the way. So this is a new sample of the design. Doesn't seem to have picked up Sign, but let's hurry up through that. Just for the sake of getting something visible in the time that we've got, I'll just continue on. Yeah, so then what I said is I want to add a page, I want to add a dashboard. So it's not like you've got to get everything right the first time. You can repeat any of these commands throughout the journey. So I said then that I want a dashboard with my existing claims that's filterable by status. I want the ability to create new claims, and I want to list all my insurance policies. Now, when I started, said this took us 2 hours, I didn't have a data model before that 2 hours. I didn't have any sample data before that 2 hours. I didn't have the security model, the web APIs set up. That's 2 hours start to finish. And then said, yeah, I want to be able to create a claim from one of these policy cards. So just like I would do on a professional build, it knows that I want to pass that GUID in the URL. So I'm not just clicking create a claim and have to start from scratch. It's working out that this is going to be a claim regarding that that existing policy, that the off canvas menu is automatically populated with details from that. It guessed about the dates, but that might be a bit of feedback I'd have to give it. Otherwise, that's a common thing that I would have to do on a portal project to say, in that example, you can't create a claim that happened in the future. So it seems so obvious. It's one of those unwritten requirements, but in Dataverse, I can't specify that on the column. I can only say that it is a date. It is a date and time, not kind of maximums or minimums. So this is on the insurance policy table. In fact, show you an example of what lands back in Dataverse. So I've got a claim for that contact. I've not populated these forms yet, but I've got a claim for that contact's policy. Here is the claim evidence. So nicely structured data, and like I said, it's taken care of all of that. It's created the solution, the tables, the relationships, the columns, everything itself. If you compare that to the pain that you might have with a multi-step form in Power Pages, if you ever created them manually, this is so much nicer, just letting it create it from scratch. And again, it's so much lighter. So I'm not having to create instructions, not got the bloated page load of everything that would come with an out-of-the-box form either. Right, hopefully within the next 4 minutes, we'll see that we'll see where it's got us, at least the local static version of it. And then, like I said, I'll share that list of what the next prompts would be. But essentially, it would be taking the preview that I get locally and saying, let's make that dynamic. So it would populate it with sample data for me. Then it would talk me through the data model to actually get that set up as tables in Dataverse, whether I want to reuse existing tables or I want to create them from scratch for this. While I remember, I'll get those links in the chat. But it's as simple as following those prompts. And in fact, the plugin set up in such a way that when you reach the end of one prompt, so I'm almost done with create site, that it will suggest what I probably want to do next is deploy the site. That actually gets it to hit Dataverse. Once I've done that, I probably want to activate the site, as in give it a URL and actually provision the Power Pages site. Any questions while we wait on that?
Okay, Franco, just a quick one while that's working away. This looks awesome. Are you finding that the free tier with Claude is good enough, or using one of the paid plans?
Definitely a paid plan. So yeah, good question. It does eat a lot of tokens. But for me as a freelancer, to be able to do, a couple of weeks work, or at least make a big dent in a couple of weeks work within 2 hours, the economics of that work out pretty well.
Yeah, that's it. It's a no-brainer. And as you say, if you're like yourself or Martin or many others, you're self-employed, that's an investment, right? You're gonna get your break even pretty quickly on that.
Yeah, absolutely. But what part of what I've seen coming back from the future is, so where that came from is that a lot of what we would get in Power Pages, in fact, in this way of working has become irrelevant. So things like web files, basic forms, the liquid templating language, all of that we do away with this single page application approach. So I think we've got barriers, like I said before, that, oh, I'm not a designer, I don't know how to code, I don't know Power Pages very well. The majority of those barriers have just gone because Claude's taking care of it. All you need to know is how to be able to answer those kinds of questions that the prompt's going to come up with. So I would say, as design input for a new site, just have in mind maybe if you've got a couple of examples of inspiration, if there's a brand you like the look of. So on others I've said, for example, I like the look of wise.com. Here are a few screenshots, and it's created me a site mimicking the look and feel of Wise. That can be a helpful starting point, and then just iterate on from there. Another cool thing that it does, again, removing skill barriers, is that it checks out all the accessibility with this Axe Core tool. So you don't have to worry that what you've built, what HTML you've got on the page isn't going to be accessible for a screen reader or something like that. It's checking all this as we go.
Franco, I think that Kay's got his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a bit. Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I just wanted to talk a bit about the Claude part because I don't use Claude, but I use ChatGPT Codex. So that's also quite good. So if you don't have Claude, because I know with Claude, I've heard that you get more when you do the premium, like the super, I think £100 a month subscription. But with the ChatGPT Codex, is kind of bundled within your ChatGPT plan. Yeah, my baby is making noise here. But yeah, that's just what I wanted to say, that if you don't have Codex, if you have ChatGPT subscription, you can use Codex for some of these things. I feel Claude has a better workflow, it's more seamless, but with Codex you can still get some of these bits to work.
Yeah, so what the skills I believe are transferable, as in the Power Platform skills. So if you were to use a ChatGPT subscription in GitHub Copilot, for example, that should be fine. So if you use that in the if you use that as the engine, basically. But yeah, I would point it to those the Power Platform skills. Ones that I've dropped there in the sorry, no, that's the set of prompts and stuff, and then just quickly share the Power Platform skills. So the skills are open source, as you can see. You can just grab those. So even if you wanted to make your own tool out of those and not use either GitHub Copilot or Claude, that I think would be realistic. And in fact, sorry, what we're looking like time-wise? Is that time up?
I think we're at 7:30, but there's a lot of time left if things are finishing up.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know that's been a bit chaotic. I was trying to do my best to show you the end result and how we actually progress through some of it in the meantime. Understood if anyone wants to drop off before that's done, but I'll share the end result anyway if anyone wants to have a click around that.
Okay, just while that's running away, we've got Martin's hand up there as well. Go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, I was seeing that you are using Claude in auto mode on. Is that safe? Because I mean, I get popped out every time that I have to make any change. Yeah, the YOLO mode.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've got it in on a sandbox machine, so it's no big deal for me. But yeah, it's good question. Something to be aware of for sure. Yeah, I found that for the demos, otherwise, I'm being interrupted to press enter every whatever 30 seconds or something like that. So that's now having to create HTML, CSS, JavaScript. One of the biggest things that we always used to be complaining about in the Power Pages world as well is when we will get the next Bootstrap version. Now, as you saw earlier, I can choose whatever framework I want. It can be React, Angular, Vue, whatever it is. React I tend to choose because it's got the biggest ecosystem. So I could say, for example, that I don't want to use Bootstrap on this particular Power Pages SPA. I want to use Fluent UI. I want to use IBM's Carbon design system. It's completely open. There's no kind of ties to Bootstrap anymore. I personally like to use Bootstrap. That's what I've got years of experience in. But if you decide that you want to use Tailwind or whatever front end framework you want, that's totally fair game. I would probably lean on a framework that's got React components as well, because here I'm just letting it create everything from scratch. But what I could do is say I specifically want full calendars React control. I want IBM Carbon's data table. So I can choose from all these ready-made components and just say, this is the table in Dataverse that I want to use for it. This is what area of the web API I want to use for it. Right, so it's just going through the accessibility now. Hopefully it won't be more than another minute or two. Let's just go back to those that getting started page. So far we've seen create site. That's probably the most involved that you need to be at any stage, and that's answering questions like you saw there about the look and feel, the purpose of the site. In the moment when it's created those pages, I will get a preview, but again, everything is still static and local for now. So it's a really cool way of being able to, I can click through my entire site before it's even built already. Deploy the site, as I mentioned, that is what actually pushes it to Dataverse. That'll create your website record, web pages, etc. Activate the site lets me choose what URL I want for the site. That's what makes it available on the web. At that point, it's all still just kind of dummy records, but it does do a really good job of things like copywriting, at least for your placeholders. It created me realistic looking insurance policies, claim numbers, all that kind of stuff. So then I can say that once I've set up the data model, I want to add sample data. So rather than throw away all those placeholder insurance policies, claims, etc., all the copywriting, it will actually create that and populate it in Dataverse tables for me as well if I choose to, which I find just makes it so much better for kind of test-driven development to get to see, well, what does that template look like with images in there, with text content, with some real records. And then one of the final steps usually would be that I want to integrate the web API. So that's how it will populate records, populate screens rather than using Liquid, which was what we'd use in the past. It will use the Power Pages web API, or there's also an option here for integrate backend. This is a newer option where, depending on the use case, which area of the site you're looking at, it will recommend based on some best practices. Should it use the web API, or should it use server logic where we've got maybe some let's say API keys and things like that we don't want to have available in the client, that it will keep those secure behind the scenes, maybe for payment processes or things like that, or it will actually recommend where you leverage Power Automate cloud flows with the native integration as well. And if you're wondering how it makes any of those decisions, that's all in those Power Platform skills that I shared, if you want to take a look at those. Right, so this is now ready. I'm just going to tell it to launch it locally because I think I closed the window. It understands plain English, or at least my version of plain English, so you don't have to, it's not like you've got to know the exact wording or prompts to use for anything. So there we go for half an hour's effort. It's not what I would say I want as the final as a final result, but it's not too bad. Got calculator. Let's say I want to pay that off in 20 years. I've got a better rate than that. But you see, even if all you use this for was a proof of concept, just to get you unstuck on day one, or you want to, your client is the kind, much like mine, that knows what they don't want when they see it. This is a good straw man to get started with. And I could change whatever I want about this now. So I could, for example, say I don't want an off-canvas menu. I want it to be a full screen modal menu. I want it to be a collapse. Anything at all, any pages that I want to add to it. It's just a matter of going back and prompting some more. Go to the application. In fact, I can see there's a lot left in the context in Claude. I've reused the same session there, so that's probably why it's looking a lot like the existing site, but I would have got a decent enough result with those prompts without that history in my chat. The only thing that's it's failed on really is I said don't use, I think I might have said don't use a font weight above 800. What I actually meant is don't use font weight 800 because that's too heavy. But check that out for responsive. That's all looking pretty good. Something that I might do to improve that in future is I'd perhaps say that footer's a bit busy for mobile, collapse it into an accordion or something like that. Yeah, definitely better than what I could build in half an hour anyway. Okay, cheers everyone.
I don't like the font.
Any questions? Apologies that ran over a little there.
No questions for me, but just say that was brilliant. And I think vibe coding, it's a popular topic at the moment, and you can see how fast it is to spin something up. As you say, even if it's just a proof of concept, if you're doing pre-sales, you want to show the art of the possible, you can really get somewhere very, very quickly, a lot quicker than before. So yeah, I think the value proposition for using those tools is absolutely brilliant. Yeah, thanks, Franco.
Cheers, Keith. Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. And I think the fact that this isn't throwaway in the sense that we've got access to all of it in the back end, we can change any of this that we want to. It's not a matter of, well, I'm not happy with that, I need to start again, try with a different prompt or something like that. I can go in and say, well, I'm right down to the very button level, page level, menu, anything I've got direct access to in the back end in Power Pages, or sticking with the prompts in Claude as well. Like I said, I could have built the site to the point where I'm say 70% done and then start to use some of these skills. So right, I'm already there, but I just want you to integrate the web API for me, or I've done that. I just want you to build the security model for me.
Yeah, got you. I love it. No, really good.
Also, there's still some comments flying into the chat there. But yeah, thank you everybody who came to speak this evening. Kay, I think Kay's on daddy duty. I think he's had to drop off. But Martin, first time, hopefully not the last. Very welcome here. And yeah, Franco's what do you call it, a veteran of high fives.
Definitely, yeah.
So yeah, we've got. I think we're booked up for a couple of months. So we'll release details for the next event very soon. Conference season's very much on us. So I know between us we're all over the place. So we do record these things so that people can catch up. Yeah, we'll be at Dynamics Minds. Hopefully see some of you there in a couple of weeks, and then after that, Experts Live in London. So love to see anyone in London too. Keith, where are you off to?
I'm actually going to be at home for a few weeks, which is nice. I don't know what that's like. Yeah, I'm normally on the road, but yeah, I'm going to be around. I think the next one for me is EPPC in Copenhagen, so that's the end of June. And yeah, hopefully if anyone's going, just let me know. I seem to be bumping into Heather at every event in the world at the moment, so
I
hope
do.
to
I
see.
feel like we don't live at opposite ends of the country, but yeah,
We only meet abroad, I think. Yeah, so
that's it.
yeah, anyone who's around for EPPC, and I'll be at Power Platform Community Conference in Vegas in October as well. That's another bigger event I'll be going to. Just ping me and we'll catch up at those events. But just before we finish up tonight, I guess we've got the little matter of the high five photo as well. So if anyone wants to come on camera.
While
I
we
know
do
used
that,
Kay.
Heather, I know you've been promoting an event in Birmingham soon. Do you want to give that a shout out for anyone
Oh
catching up?
yeah. More than
Yeah,
over.
yeah. On the 8th of June, we're doing a Women in Tech event in Birmingham, and it's Aston University, and I will be speaking there because it's my favorite thing to talk about. So yeah, welcome to anybody who's interested. I've got a post on my LinkedIn, but you can also just message me, and I'll be happy to give you details. And then Sarah doesn't know I'm going to plug this, but the day after that, I will be in Manchester because it is the Manchester AI User Group 1 year birthday. And so I'm very excited to be able to go to that one as well. And yeah, so thank
And
you.
you're speaking, and Franco's speaking, and we've got Christian
Yes.
in as well, I think. So that'll be a good one.
It's very super exciting, isn't it? And so it's such a good, and you know, I don't know if anybody listening has not been to that user group before. It is just an amazing group of people, isn't it? And it's so high quality, and just yeah, I think it's a really good experience for anybody who's able to make it.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, it certainly is. I've been once before, looking forward to returning. And just for everyone's benefit as well, in the chat, I've just put a link there to one of Heather's posts about the Women in Tech event in June. So please do go along. It's going to be awesome. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us.